So some people, Mariella, have criticised this documentary as being insensitive to the families of the victims. Where do you stand on that?
I'm sure that, you know, we can easily understand how that can be the case, but I think the other thing you have to bear in mind is that, you know, there have been many miscarriages of justice over the decades, over the centuries, and a lot of the time the way they're exposed is through really good, rigorous journalism. Now, I'm not sure if this documentary represents really good, rigorous journalism because it felt pretty one-sided to me. There were no voices arguing or, you know, moving around the subject. It just felt like they had this other evidence. They wanted to cover that. But it was quite compelling in many ways. And, you know, you can't help but sort of feel that if there is a possibility that this woman isn't guilty, then I suppose there's a right to have it explored. Personally, I think it would have made a better podcast because I don't think it was very visual anyway. And perhaps it would have felt a bit less sensationalist. I think that's the problem. It's so soon after the event, and obviously for those parents, those grieving parents, it is a very tricky, emotional thing to have to go through. But, you know, Lucy Letby, I suppose, has, you know, her rights by the law as well, and if there is a case to be heard, it needs to be explored.
I suppose if the documentary makers were here, they would say that it's sort of a conversation starter. You know, it's kind of laying out the opposite argument. And they're certainly getting...
But you need balance, don't you?
Yeah.
You don't want a documentary telling you what you think.
But they're sort of pointing out some of the things that were not, for some reason, we know not why, were not included in the court case.
Yeah. And quite shocking.
There's definitely quite a groundswell of you know, support behind this campaign, both journalistically in the newspapers, but also former Cabinet Minister Sir David Davis. He says that if he comes to the conclusion that he thinks that she might be innocent, he might visit Lucy Letby in prison, and he would be seeking to get a Criminal Case Review Commission referral, which, of course, would be a good step towards it. But, Linda, what do you think in terms of documentaries like this starting a conversation like
Well, I would choose not to watch that, personally, because the justice system, you have to have faith in them, but they have to inform the families that there's going to be a documentary, but they don't have to ask their permission. So I think it's really insensitive, this documentary. I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't choose to watch it.
OK, Brenda, so I'm just looking up a right of reply here, which we've just got in. Carry on.
I watched it because, obviously, it was everywhere when it came out, so I wanted to just ask him the question of, did she do it, you know, when there was so much media frenzy saying that she did do it, which, you know, is obviously a trial by media in that way. But I do also think it's a bit insensitive to have done it in that way, where it just seems like a one-sided. You've got parents there who have still got wounds and are still grieving for their children, and for a lot of them, they probably have got so many unanswered questions themselves. So I think if they were going to do it, then they should have done that investigation maybe behind the scenes, and, as Linda said, asked for the permission of those parents that it's affected, whether it's right or wrong.
I do get what you're saying, but there have been quite a few miscarriages of justice. You know, we were talking earlier about Dutch nurse Lucia de Bert, which is almost like a carbon copy of this.
Absolutely, and she was vilified.
Yeah,
and I mean, the
later
whole nation
exonerated. Yeah. Nobody is suggesting that might be... I mean, we don't know with Lucy Letby, but I think it's arguable that if there is a scintilla of doubt, then it should be investigated. And as they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Oh, absolutely.
OK, well, this is a right of reply from Channel 5, which we just got in. It says, our deepest sympathies remain, above all, with the bereaved families who lost loved ones at the Countess of Cheshire Hospital. Since Letby's prosecution, a growing number of medical practitioners, statisticians, forensic experts, journalists and scientists have started to question the case against her. The film sought to unpack the evidence used to convict Lucy Letby and to raise the key questions that have emerged. Well, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more developments in that story, and we'll bring them to you when they come.